The Broad Street Review podcast is teaming up with the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance's RestART initiative, bringing you conversations about how Philly arts organizations are surviving the COVID-19 crisis and the changes they're taking into the future. I'm your host, Darnell Radford. Broad Street Review is Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation. We're a nonprofit online arts and culture journal serving the Greater Philadelphia area since 2005. Today on the podcast, our 8-part summer series collaboration with Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance's RestART initiative continues with Kun-Yang Lin Dancers. In our conversation, we learn how a dance company has fared during the pandemic. Here is my interview with Katie Moore-Derkits, Executive Director, and Maggie Zhao, Assistant Artistic Director of Kun-Yang Lin Dancers. Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with two representatives of the Kun-Yang Lin Dancers as part of the RestART Initiative Summer Series collection of conversations we are doing in partnership with the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance. And so we're so happy to have these guests with us today, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, their name and their title.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Moore-Derkits, and I'm the Executive Director of KYLD. I've been in this role since January 1st of this year, but I've been involved with the company for about 6 years now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Zhao. I am Assistant Artistic Director with Kun-Yang Lin Dancers, and I've been working with the company since the summer 2015.
Okay, and welcome again to you both. So let's take a moment to talk about the organization in general. Tell us about Kun-Yang Lin Dancers.
Sure. So our company is named after our founder and artistic director, Kun-Yang Lin. He's an immigrant from Taiwan who came to the United States because he really wanted to have the opportunity to train in the new modern dance forms that were coming out of New York City and other cultural hubs in the States. So he first traveled to New York City. He performed in very well-renowned companies such as the Martha Graham Company, and he also got his MFA in dance from NYU's Tisch School for the Arts. During that time when he was in school and performing in professional dance companies, he began to choreograph his own work and started to gain a following of local dancers who really connected to his practice, which we call Chi awareness practice, that has influences from both Eastern and Western movement practices. And soon after he received his MFA, he was recruited by Temple University to teach in their dance department. He commuted back and forth for a couple of years and then decided he wanted to officially relocate to Philadelphia in 2008 with his partner and the former executive director, Ken Metzner. And that's when they decided to take the company from more of a project-based ensemble to really establish itself as a 501c3 nonprofit. And they also developed the company's home, which we call Chi Movement Arts Center. So we've been there since 2008. We're in South Philly, just half a block from Pat's Cheesesteaks. So if you're ever in the area grabbing a cheesesteak, you might notice our dance center, which has a facade that's decorated by Isaiah Zagar of Philly's Magic Gardens. So that's the history of how the company started, and it's grown slowly over the past 15 years in Philadelphia. We have 8 to 10 dance artists per season. We have our own arts education program called Chi Dance. We have a presenting series for emerging and established artists called the Inhale Performance Series. And we create and perform work locally, nationally, and internationally.
Okay, great. Thank you. So you're doing very little at your organization, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, as with most arts organizations.
Oh, it's so great to see such a full list of things, and nothing wrong with one note or just a couple of things, but it's great to have a diverse sort of roster of projects and programs that can help engage an audience. So that's great to see and learn about. So in these conversations, we've been talking about how the pandemic has affected many organizations in the community. And these have been conversations I have really wanted to have the whole time. But much like everyone else, at the height of this, we were just kind of laying in wait, sort of thinking about what sort of information was coming, what would be the best way to move forward, and how to be cautious and safe, and keep everyone safe in the process. So let's talk about what was the organization like in at the beginning of this pandemic, say March 2020, and Katie, that was before you took over as executive director. Is that correct?
Yes. So in March of 2020, my role was the business director. Okay. And that was the time period when we have our biggest event of the year. We call it our spring home season. So typically we perform 3 to 4 shows at a well-known venue in the city. And it's the culmination of 8 months of rigorous rehearsals with our dance artists every week. So unfortunately, like many other organizations, we had to cancel our spring season. We weren't able to actually get in the theater before the pandemic really screeched everything to a halt. And because we were a dance organization, unlike perhaps some other arts and culture organizations, especially as a small nonprofit like ours, it was difficult to immediately pivot to the virtual realm. Mm-hmm. It's so important for Kun-Yang and his creative process to have bodies in space. It's that physical connection, that energy that individuals exchange amongst each other that is so crucial to the art form. So we took a break, and the staff stayed involved to figure out, okay, what are our options? What can we do? And what do we have the capacity to accomplish that we think will still be meaningful to our community? So originally, what we had done is we had looked at our past productions that we always get high quality video footage of for archival purposes, and determined this hasn't been seen by the public before. There might be people who maybe missed one of our seasons one year and never got to see us perform the work that was a part of that concert. So we revealed 3 separate evening length productions on our website, which stayed up for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. And it was pay what you wish. If people chose to donate to support us, then they could. If people didn't have the means to do that, they could also just continue to stay connected with us and be inspired while in an intense period of lockdown. So that was the immediate response. And then slowly, as we realized this pandemic was not going to be a couple week thing or a couple months, we were able to partner with what was formerly known as the Annenberg Center, which is now Penn Live Arts, when they pivoted to a solely live streamed concert series for their 2020-2021 season. And we have partnered with them in the past. We love working with them. And what that looked like was the following spring of 2021, we were in the Zellerbach Theater at Penn Live Arts, their largest theater, with an audience of 0, except for Maggie, who is helping run the cues and sound. And we performed an evening-length concert that solely had a live stream audience. And that was the first time we really had the opportunity to present ourselves in a live format virtually because, as I mentioned earlier, as a small organization, we didn't have the ability to invest in the technology and in the training that it would take in order to create such a high quality production.
So, so partnering was a great opportunity for you to take advantage of that resource. What is the position of the organization now from a technology training standpoint?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting for us this spring. So now 1 year later, April of 2022, we presented ourselves at the Suzanne Roberts Theater, and we decided we wanted to continue to experiment with digital, even if we did not have a presenting partner. So we were able to get in contact with a local videographer and media producer who live streamed the final performance of that series of shows for that weekend. So that was the first time we were reaching out to really just the audience that we had cultivated over the past 15 years and say, hey, is this of interest? And what was really great was we have so many diverse artists in the company and staff and board members and previous alumni of the company that live in all different parts of the United States and in the world now who don't have the capacity to come see us in person every year. So we did get a great response from individuals and those who were Zooming in, or it was on Vimeo, who were watching us on Vimeo from China and watching it the next day. So we did see that there's a lot of positive community engagement that can happen when we do virtual, but it is also adding an additional component to our capacity of our staff. For that, in particular, that program, we were able to hire someone outside of the company to do the work. So we're seeing that as still being a possibility, live streaming our performances and potentially live streaming other types of community engagement programs. But it would need to be something that we can secure additional funding for and find some additional human resources in order to continue to implement.
Yeah, I feel like that's most the mindset of most organizations, and so I come from a technology background. So thinking about this situation and how the pandemic sort of forced you into embracing more of this technology, was it ever part of the future plans to think about how to incorporate more technology? Being that dance, much like theater, is very much an in-person, emotional feeling, like you have to be in the room where it happens, so to speak. Was there any thought before this on how to do it that was kind of rushed? The process was rushed, or what is the thought process now?
I'd like to try to answer this and having more conversation about this. And I think definitely when pandemic hit, it really put every single organization in a stick, like, oh, what we can do, like how to pivot everything. And there's all the technology stuff. If there's no pandemic happen, I don't think at least our company would ever consider investing in such time, energy, effort into this and trying to find the beauty of this collaboration. I think with the moving forward, I think definitely, as Katie mentioned previously, we are trying to like learn more because we're still like in the beginning level to this virtual like live streaming show in such a high production, like beautiful theater. But also that brings us some more awareness that what's very important. I think from the like this pandemic also really allow us to appreciate live performance more, because even it's a virtual live stream, we also need a space. We also need bodies in that space. We need the people who really embrace and dedicate their life to art. So for the audience members, we're like those people who watching from the screen, we're going to see the performance live in the theater, will be able to really enjoy that moment. So I think there's a lot of room for us to grow, to learning that technology, like a collaboration between the traditional setting, like theater setting of live performance with the technology. And I feel like it's also very important as a dancer or choreographer, a different mindset when the piece is captured by the camera angles, because there are so many different angles can be captured in a different ways. That also is quite challenging and in a good way for dancer and choreographer to brainstorm and create and see the dance differently.
To add to Maggie's point, when we did our first live stream experience with Penn Live Arts, the different cameras that they had set up in the space created a different type of choreography, I think you could view it as, because Maggie was looking at 5 different camera angles, and she knows all of the company's repertoire. She knows every single move. So she would be communicating with the technicians in a whole new way, because previously it wouldn't just be about staging the performance for a live audience. It would be, how do we continue to make transitions between the cameras in a way that tells a story in a different way and continues to engage people online? Because many of us, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter by the day, but they're also even more precious online. Yeah. So another obstacle to virtual programming is you have to look at it through a different lens of someone opening up their phone or their laptop, and how you can hook them and keep them there so they really are dedicating their time to immersing themselves in your performance.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thought process too, especially thinking of the platforms that you're on. So if you're on Vimeo or on YouTube or a platform like that, there are many more people who engage in those platforms on smaller screens. Everyone is not sitting in front of a media server that's beaming into their television, so you've got a full on presentation there. So you're thinking, how can I engage someone who is on the train at the time of our release? How can I engage someone who is just trying to get trying to experience this in the free time that they have and not feel like this is something, oh, well, I can't physically be there. Let me just cut out of this. Like, how do you make it engaging still? And it is such an interesting thing. And I feel like it's not, it kind of reminds me of this moment in Fame where the actors, the dancers, and the musicians are chanting in this counterpoint about which is the hardest profession in the world. And you think about adding this technology in terms of like presenting the vision, the message, and will it resonate to an audience? It becomes so much more of a challenge for dance to display that beauty, in the same vein as when you're in a live space, you may be looking in one direction and that is what you see, but in your peripheral, you'll see the rest of it that also engages you and pulls you in that direction too. And that's what makes it so exciting, but if you're looking at a wide shot, you're just, okay.
You don't also feel the people that are next to you and their body language and how they're responding to the piece as it unfolds in real time. I think that's something that I really treasured when we were able to go back to presenting a live in-person spring season this spring. Is there's this calm, there's this peacefulness, and everyone's sitting in silence, but there's still a sense of community that we're all watching the same thing at the same time. We're all taking this journey together, and that's a really important element of Kun-Yang's work. Is we say we want audiences to go on journeys of self-discovery. His work is very abstract, and although there are influences and themes and concepts that he's exploring, he really wants individuals to come away with whatever interpretation of the work that they have. And he loves hearing from audience members what those reactions and responses were. And that's another crucial part of that in-person experience is people feel oftentimes more likely to send an email or talk to us after the show or fill out an audience survey than they would if they're just having that digital engagement. So we're really trying to navigate, we're prioritizing the return of in-person events, but we're still finding ways in which we can manage keeping that virtual component without overwhelming our staff and making sure that whatever we present online, that it has the production quality that we're known for our in-person interactions.
Yeah. And so earlier on, you had touched on, after taking a brief intermission that was more than brief, returning back to that moment and trying to re-engage your audience, but also welcoming in a new audience. How are you able to track this new audience that is there who, in the future, if hopefully they will continue to grow with you and go with you, they will not be able to experience the live in person as of someone who lives in the neighborhood who can walk over to the facility and do that. So what are some of the conversations that are being had about how to sustain your tried and true audience while engaging this new audience?
That's a great question. And I think we've had discussions with our team. We're still in the early stages of analyzing how we can retain those virtual audiences. We do know most of those audiences pretty well. With the live stream of our spring season, for instance, they had to purchase a live stream ticket. So they had to enter in their personal contact information. And another great virtual program we were able to pilot was with our education program, Chi Dance. And with that program, we basically kept the same core community. It serves students in Philadelphia's public school system primarily. So we kept those same schools as our partners, but through the virtual programs, we were able to send pre-recorded video content to more classrooms, because previously we didn't have as many teaching artists as we would love to have to be in every classroom at all of our partner schools. So we are able to meet new teachers in the schools where we already have existing relationships in, and we're able to build a bridge and letting them know, we're a partner of the school, and this is the mindfulness programming that we're teaching. And that's been able to bridge some new conversations with how we can potentially provide not a whole session of Chi Dance to their classroom right away, but we could provide more mindfulness resources, alternative art activities that our education coordinator has developed, one-time workshops, things of that nature. So we're trying to re-envision our virtual content. We're looking at the Chi Dance program now, and we're figuring out, do we want to add more pre-recorded lessons? Do we want to edit classes down so they're shorter in size, and we can reimagine the objective to be less of a class kids are taking at their home because they're now mainly back to school, and it can shift to being more about 2 to 8 minute long clips we post on social media of just 1 or 2 exercises that not only youth but adults can participate in as just a part of their day, a little refresher, a little way to take a breath before they move on to something else. So we're not trying to come up with too many new programs, we're trying to take what already exists essentially and figure out how we can repackage it in different ways and continue to share it with the community, while also making sure that we have these people's names, we have their contact information, and we're always getting in touch with them to ask, what are you interested in? What's your feedback after attending this class? We've done virtual live classes as well. And I think as it pertains to the performance realm, it's going to be similar in determining if we want to live stream certain performance content and or looking at archival content we already have and figuring out ways in which we can repurpose that. And that's going to be especially pertinent this upcoming year, 2023. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary in Philadelphia and our 25th anniversary in the United States. So one of our goals is to really create more content that shows the history of the organization. Kun-Yang used to perform in the company. We have so much footage of him performing and of so many other alumni in the company performing. So we're trying to figure out a way where we're not overburdening ourselves with developing so many new ideas and programs and information, but looking at the materials we have and say, how can we make this short and sweet and make it a shout out to, the last time this work was presented 10 years ago in connection to how we're bringing it back for our 15th anniversary, and just give people a little snippet, a little taste of the work.
Yeah. That's great. Can you talk about how you were supported during this time, both by the community, by foundations, by policies, etc.? The things that were sort of invaluable at this time that really helped the organization stay afloat.
The company was really fortunate to be able to receive a number of COVID-19 relief related funding opportunities. We've had long-standing relationships with many foundations, including but not limited to the William Penn Foundation, the Samuel S. Fells Fund, the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, the Allen Hills Fund, and many other organizations who stepped up and provided the same or additional support in order to help us navigate what the future looks like, because we weren't getting ticket revenue from events since we had to cancel all of our events. So there were a lot of different ways in which our foundational partners understood the need and really were able to continue to honor our longstanding partnerships. And the press, I think, also did a really great job in pivoting quickly to get in touch with small, medium, and large organizations to figure out how they were pivoting. And I think that speaks to how once everyone was in lockdown, they were looking for things to do. And so performing arts and visual arts organizations were some of the first industries to pivot quickly and say, here's ways in which you can still engage with us. Do a walkthrough of this virtual gallery of this artist's work, or in our instance, relive this production from several years ago. So I think that arts organizations, especially in Philadelphia, did a great job in figuring out, okay, people need hope, people need a sense of community, people need ways in which to take a break from all of the crises that were happening during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the RestART initiative with the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, they provided us with additional human resources that were such a gift, because oftentimes a lot of us arts administrators, we wear 10 different hats. We have to take a few on, take a few off, depending on the day. And oftentimes marketing and communications are one of those hats I don't put on as often as I'd like to. And what was so phenomenal about the RestART initiative is that we had someone that was looking at the history of our audience engagement practices, and they were recommending new avenues to explore. They're helping develop templates so we could better organize and synthesize all of the different programs and how we communicate information about those programs. And they also provided a significant amount of funded ad placements in print, digital, every type of media outlet that we previously couldn't afford to market in that way. We oftentimes have to limit ourselves in terms of how many ads we can place digitally with different media outlets, with different community organizations. And that's where community partnerships have really played an important role in the continuation of our organization. Is we do a lot of swaps with community orgs. We have great relationships with the rest of the dance community in Philadelphia, but also the larger arts community. So it enabled us to continue those partnerships. While separately, we had people from GPCA who were saying, hey, Katie, I think you should do this. This is why. Let's test it out. Let's see what happens. We'll support that. And for me, it's hard to really explain what the value of that is, but most arts organizations would probably say that they could use more staff. And so that human resources component, it really enabled me to think about marketing and communications in a whole new way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that need for more staff is it's always there, because it truly does take a village to bring art to life, and we try to pull it together with shoestrings and gum as best as we can, and but even though there's a sense of pride in being able to do that, it also sends a message that we don't need the help sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this interesting balance that you have to ride. You have to, like, well, we did it. I mean, we could have done it better if we had all of these things. So I guess that just speaks to the resilience question, the fact that these organizations always figure out a way. We always figure out a way to make it happen.
Yep.
Even though they're not the most ideal ways to move through, but we do it.
Right.
Maggie, I wondered if you could talk about how maybe the mindset has changed from an artistic standpoint about how to move forward, because I guess if you were thinking about something you've been planning for 5 years, let's say, and it was in that world that isn't as familiar after this time, how is your thinking, how is the mindset changing artistically?
Yeah, thank you. I think artistically, like planning, I think because me and Kun-Yang constantly have a lot of conversations about artistic planning, this pandemic taught us sometimes we really need to focus on the present, because when nobody would really know the pandemic would come, so we really, if we have a thought, if we have an idea, we are trying our best to work on it, because we had to cancel our show back in 2020, so that's something we never wanted to happen, and we don't want to risk our waste the time for our present, and we just want to give 100% at the present always. I think that's something we really learned it. And in terms of artistic planning for the company's future, I think Kun-Yang recently just retired from his serving at Temple after 19 years. And then also I think this pandemic all really allowed everyone to take this chance to deeply reflect on our own personal life, what really matters the most. I think in terms of our company's future, since Kun-Yang retired, and he will take more time to take care of himself as a human being, and then also really give more more thoughtful planning and thinking into companies' development for the future. And for me, and also I feel like this pandemic also gave me a lot of chance to really deep reflect on my relationship with the company, and really take a time to see what I've learned, what I've gained from working with the company, as well as looking forward to see what I can contribute more and what I can be challenged more. Because from the pandemic, I think I worked a lot in front of a computer, which I never had to do that.
Yeah.
And also be really flexible in a different way, be flexible and mindset about, for example, one of our dancers were sick or not feeling well, how we can be so flexible and keep moving forward, not stuck at that kind of hardship. But we're also trying to take care of our dancers' bodies when they don't feel well. Is that really important? We have to stick there and, oh, we cancel the rehearsal, or oh, you come and watch the the rehearsal or try as much as you can. I think this also allowed us to learn something like, because we have Zoom, we're able to do the hybrid model for rehearsals. So that's a perfect, I think it's a win-win side, and the dancer wouldn't feel they cannot catch up. They miss a lot of materials, but at the same time, we're able to involve everyone in the process.
What does that look and feel like virtually? Because thinking like as we're having a conversation right now, we're sitting right in front of screens and microphones. We're plugged in. But if you're doing warm-ups or some sort of rehearsal in a virtual space, like you're standing up, you're moving around, and you're still trying to engage with a box. You're still trying to engage with a Zoom screen. So talk about what that was like, and how, if there were things there that you didn't necessarily realize were, wow, this is actually a useful thing, as opposed to like, we need to be in the room together. But was there anything in the virtual elements that, if you weren't forced to, see it as an option, you wouldn't have known was a resource that you could take advantage of?
Yeah, of course. I think the virtual, especially if during that 2020 lockdown, we also operated a couple of rehearsals virtually. So all the different boxes in front of our screens are very overwhelming. But at the same time, we're able to capture more details. A lot of, like, when the dancers perform, rehearse together in our studio, and me and Kun-Yang normally see the whole overview. Like we look at them like as an ensemble, like together. But when we rehearse all virtually, we really get to see each person's detail, like difference, and all how different they are. And also with that, also the sometimes the internet gets caught in and out, and also the lagging part. That's also the challenge. But also the one thing I noticed, it's really hard for dancers to rehearse like a hybrid model, because sometimes for the people who are really in the space, in the studio together, and we're so involved, and sometimes we would forget, there is a person on the other side, like still paying attention to us. So sometimes we would just trying to like have one person closer to the laptop and making sure the camera is always following Kun-Yang, not just stick one place. That's something like we learned. And also, I think for us, we just have to move so closer to the laptop whenever we're trying to deliver the task or deliver some message to the person rehearsing virtually. And it's all like going so closer to the laptop or going away. And I think most important thing is always trying to be aware of to have two different approaches at rehearsal. Because when we are trying to give the task to the person from screen, less simpler, always the best. So sometimes when we do in person at once, we give so many different ideas, and it's so quick and easy to digest and get a response quickly. But when we do virtually, we may just give a very simple, and when we communicate with the dancer virtually, we're trying to, and also I feel like Kun-Yang is very good at that, is just using some keywords. Like, okay, for example, I want you to just utilize KYLD, those 4 letters, and find 3 words and embody those words through your movements. Something very task oriented and very simple, and leave enough time for people from the screen. And I think that's something we feel it's very, very good and successful. One thing also good about the virtual rehearsing one part is we have the recording. So we don't have to have a person always holding the camera in front of everyone recording. We can just record the entire stuff.
Yeah, that is great, and I can imagine, early on thinking about the recording, it's like I want to make sure I have enough space to capture every one and everything. So there's a little bit of blocking in this virtual space to think about, like, how far, what is your distance from your screen that you need to be. I think it's so I I think it's so amazing when I see, like, I'll walk through town or I'm in someone's office and I'll see that there's still laptops propped on boxes, to give you the height that you need, and we're still thinking of all these, like, clever ways to try to make this feel a little bit more human and real. And there's just still a lot to process and learn to figure out how, to get the best out of it. Now that you're in this space, now we're here. June is wrapping up. We're looking on to our next seasons. Is there anything that you would have loved for the community to have had, or are you hearing that is coming up that would have been useful for you in the start, or that isn't quite, forming itself yet, but that these are things that, like, if you had it as your organization, that other dance companies could benefit from this as well? Are there things like that that you're keeping track of and kind of thinking about as conversations continue?
Another important resource that KYLD is able to give back to the community is we have our own space. It's one dance studio, but we have anywhere from 25 to 100 people a year that were coming in and out of our space. Local artists, both performers, choreographers, performance art groups, poets, musicians, so many different sectors of the arts community have utilized our space for classes, rehearsals, performances, lecture demonstrations. So one way in which we're really trying to start conversations with people who have used our space in the past, and then also reach out to new communities, is learning, what are your needs now, since we're in this strange half virtual, half in-person world. So we can make sure that we're listening and responding to those needs. We're definitely seeing a lot of dancers now that are starting to create and present work again and hold live in-person classes. And we're just really honored that we're able to support those artists along with our own ensemble. So I think that now people are doing more work live in person. We're determining, are there other ways we can innovate our space or think about the different services that we're providing out to artists in a way that is different from how we've done them in the past. And what's so spectacular is a lot of the artists in the ensemble are also freelance choreographers. They're also involved in other organizations. So we have a really great network of folks that we're constantly in contact with. I'm not sure I could say there's anything where we thought, oh, we wish we could have had that, because we're still in that process of determining what we have the capacity to implement. So we've thought about, if we want to provide offerings that maybe could add a virtual or digital component to the work. We don't have that infrastructure or that technology right now, But if in conversations with community members and artists that need arises, then we want to think about that, and also how that pertains to the company. If we want to live stream our classes, or if we want to create hybrid models of different events, or think about using non-traditional spaces for programs that we've done previously in our space. We're still in a very open-minded place where anything still seems possible, but we're just so grateful that we do have a home base. So that was always a grounding part of moving forward throughout the pandemic. Is we have the support from the community, from our foundational partners, from our individual donors, from our board, so that we can continue rehearsing. We might not know what we're going to present or when or how or in what way, but we have the ability to create work when we need to. We have that space. And that's that's something that not a lot of, local artists have access to. So we definitely want to continue to listen in and see how we can provide the best resources we can.
Yeah, that's great. Were there any tough choices that had to be made around this time? In this time.
Thankfully, we were able to keep the staff throughout the pandemic, but we did have to create a greater pause with the dance artists and come back slowly in batches. And also, as Maggie mentioned, there's this reflection that a lot of us are going through, both in and out of the arts, on what we want to prioritize in our lives and if we want to take risks with career shifts. So there's been transition and individuals coming in and out of the company during the pandemic that we've also had to navigate. But we have such a great sense of community within KYLD. I think that's something that manifests on stage, is that sense of unity, that there can be a group that can look diverse in many ways, but they can find this common breath, this common language to communicate. And we've just continued with that same philosophy moving throughout the pandemic, keeping in touch with folks as much as we can. Thankfully, we only had to take a short break, and then we're able to return to the space.
Yeah. As a general question, what makes your organization relevant today?
That's a great question. And there's so many ways in which I could dive deeper into that. I think that our organization is relevant because we have the people who make up the company are people who are active in the community, and not just within the contemporary dance community, but in so many other parallel and different types of communities. Our dance artists range in age from very young to more mature. We've had people in the company that have been there for 10 years, and we have people who have been there for 1 year. So all of those different perspectives continue to keep the conversations fresh and alive and incorporate different viewpoints that really make sure that we're staying aware of all of the different ways in which people want to work and perform and create. I think we're relevant because our work really centers on people. One of Kun-Yang's philosophies is thinking about the relationship between the individual and the collective. There's a lot of dualistic related beliefs that center his work, is how you can look at opposite forces and find a way to find harmony and balance and peace. And so we've developed programs in a really intentional way that balances those two forces, the individual and the collective. We have Kun-Yang creating work through his own artistry, but that work is communicated through a group of dancers who create and interpret that artistry in their own way. We have our Inhale performance series, so we're not just presenting the company's work, but we're also utilizing our space to have a call out to the community to say, what are you working on? What do you want to present? And our Chi Dance program takes Kun-Yang's practice, Chi awareness practice, and models it for youth that emphasizes how you can find ways in which to express yourself through movement that's through your own language. It's not focused on specific technique like you would see in a traditional ballet class. There's a lot of improvisation. There's a lot of creative movement components where students are asked to create work or respond to a prompt or a task similar to Kun-Yang's creative process. So there's a lot of agency that the individual has in any of the programs that they engage with us in. And then we are collectively finding ways in which we can support those individuals and make a cohesive program that feels meaningful to everyone who participates in it.
So that's a great example of how Kun-Yang Lin Dancers can support a community. How can the community continue to support Kun-Yang Lin Dancers?
Yes, we are so excited to be able to start our 2022-2023 season this July. We're starting off our season with an audition for the company. So if anyone is listening to this and they are a professional dancer or they know a professional dancer, please go to our website, kyld.org, to learn more about our upcoming audition. It's July 18th to the 22nd. After the audition, we're going to have a series of summer workshops 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Each week will be featuring a different instructor in the Philadelphia area and a different technique style. Then we move into our regular series of company classes that are open to the public. And our first performance of the ensemble this season will be August 18th. It's a Thursday at 6 o'clock at Dilworth Park. We have a long-standing partnership with Center City District, who provides the Arts on Center Stage program, which we have been so grateful to be a part of because it's an opportunity for folks who maybe have never heard of us to experience us for the first time. It's outside, it's free, it's open to the public, and we can't wait to get back to the studio and rehearse and present something to the community again.
That's great. And also you have a support page on your website, kyld.org/support. You can go there and click the big red donate buttons.
Yes, please do. Every amount necessary. Counts.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Katie and Maggie, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about your organization and, how this extended intermission has fared in your organization. It sounds like you are quite resilient, and I hope our listeners hear that as well. And if they've passed your building, if they've seen your work at Dilworth Park or in any of the other spaces, that they remember that they don't forget you and continue to support you in all of your efforts. So I want to thank you both for taking the time to chat with me today and to share your experiences. And we're all, at this moment, we're all looking cautiously optimistic forward
Yes.
as the next
Yeah.
season looms for us all. We want something that resembles the past sort of norm, but with a reality that the world has changed, and arts and culture are even more important now more than they've ever been. So, Katie, Maggie, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed this chat with you today.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having us.
Thanks for listening to Restart with BSR, presented by the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance and the Broad Street Review podcast. Want to get involved with Broad Street Review? Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com to read, subscribe to our weekly newsletters, learn about writing for BSR, or become a supporter. Our readers' donations keep us running. Join the BSR conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at BroadST Review. Thanks for being part of our community.